I thought, I'm tough, but trying to have a natural delivery without that education, I think is maybe rare.
Looking back between 1 and 2, what do you wish you had known?
I just had this false confidence that I'm a woman, so I'm made to deliver children. I thought I had like a decent pain tolerance, which now I think, why couldn't I do it? Trying to have a natural delivery without that education behind you and having success, I think is maybe rare. I think we underestimate how important it is, and there's so many aspects to it, and that preparation, that knowledge really is so helpful when you get to the actual situation and knowing how you're going to handle something.
I don't think that people realize that the body balancing part is sometimes more important than the actual childbirth education stuff, because with each baby that you have, your body changes. And so when people are more prepared, then it takes away that heaviness.
Welcome to the Keeping Your Power Real Talk on Resilience podcast. I'm your host, Tracidoula. I'm a family and birth advocate, a mentor, and your personal encourager. I wanted to create this space for individuals, families, and professionals who are done with just surviving and want to rise. Because when everything feels like it's falling apart, the one thing the world can't take from you is your power. And that's where resilience begins. It's not just riding the waves or surviving the storms. It's about how to overcome the challenges. So whether you're in the thick of it or reflecting on where you've been, pull up a chair and let's navigate the hard conversations and the beautiful stories that together we can be honest and use empathy and have a desire to grow, all while, of course, keeping your power in the process.
Hey guys, it's good to see y'all.
Hey.
Good to see you.
So I know Lauren from way back in the day of doing births. You were a labor and delivery nurse when I was a doula. Tell me what years you worked up there.
I think that was 2017 through 2021.
Okay. And so we kind of did a few births together, and really it's all vague. It's just all a blur to me.
Yeah.
And that's how we know each other. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves because I don't want to give too much away, because this is like a crazy story. I have a lot of labor and delivery nurses that I run into, and I think that this one's worth talking about because of just like surprise home birth experience and labor and delivery nurse don't really go together often. Mm-hmm. So introduce yourselves and we'll start from there.
This is Drew. I'm Lauren, and we've been married now for 8 years. Drew is a farmer and I'm a nurse. I did a little bit of ICU when I graduated, and then I thought I would go on to the fun stuff. Labor and delivery. So I did that for several years before going back to school.
So the fun stuff. So yeah, the labor and delivery, I feel like, is very eventful. It can be, super, I think the misconception is, labor and delivery nurses just have it easy. They just do the baby things, but it can be a rocky road. Like there's some high points to it, but then there's some very stressful low points to it. And when you started labor and delivery, tell me like your birth belief system before you started having kids. How did you feel about it?
Well, going into labor and delivery, I really didn't have any knowledge of the labor process or what interventions were needed or not needed. So going straight into the hospital setting from the beginning, I just saw the inductions and the interventions and the cesareans, and it was just very normalized in that setting.
So when you got pregnant with your first baby, so how old are your children? Let's do that first.
So our oldest is 5, almost 6. And then our middle just turned 4. And then the baby is 1.5. When I got pregnant with my first son, I think that it was just all so very new to me that I just wanted to do what felt comfortable, which is what I knew working in labor and delivery. So I think from the beginning, I just thought that the delivery would just kind of go like what I'd seen in the hospital. I did know I didn't want to be induced. I had started to believe that things seemed to go smoother when they happened on their own. So I knew that I wanted to not be induced. But then once I went into labor on my own and got to the hospital, like I wanted an epidural because I didn't want any pressure on myself. I didn't care if they did pit or not. So I was okay with things being what I was used to at the time.
Drew, how about you? Like, tell me your birth experiences. Like, what birth experiences do you have prior to having babies?
So growing up on a farm, we've always had a lot of cows. And so I have known birth from cows and animals since a very young age. I've always told Lauren, it's been happening for all of time and we never needed anything fancy, and the animals don't and people didn't up until recent history. So anything that she wanted to do or decide, I was okay with. But the only interventions that I knew anything about were when cows have trouble calving, and a lot of times we have to pull them. So I've pulled my fair share of calves with success and some failure too. So
yeah, and Lauren's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not. We're not doing that.
Say, like,
so tell me a little bit about.
Going to go to like the corner of the field and have the baby.
So tell me, in being in labor and delivery, you just see a lot, right? I mean, you don't know what you don't know, but you also, I've talked to so many labor and delivery nurses that are like, I get it. I know what I don't want. You kind of knew the things that you didn't want. And you kind of have to talk yourself off of a ledge. So tell us a little bit about that first birth experience.
Honestly, it was really smooth. It was a really fun day. My water broke at home. I was 38 and 5 and went in and, I was feeling some contractions. Actually, I went in and they started Pitocin and that was painful. And so I was like, I'll get the epidural, got the epidural. And then not long after that, it was time to go. And it was a very easy delivery without complications. So it went really well.
So your water broke and then you went in because your water broke and then they started Pitocin because your water broke.
Right.
And so you just had a really smooth augmentation to water breaking at the beginning, which, I'm just going to call you lucky because that doesn't happen very often.
It was surprisingly smooth
for it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. So you must have gotten, so how many months are they apart?
They are 20 months apart. And when I was pregnant with my second one, I thought that I wanted to try to have him without an epidural. Okay. So that's where the difference was between 1 and 2.
And I think I remember you messaged me. That's when we kind of got like on a little bit more of a personal level when you messaged me and you're like, hey, I don't really want an epidural with this one. Help me out a little bit. And so we just got on the phone and we kind of just went through hey, remember, these are the things that you just need to take in consideration because, being a labor and delivery nurse, you kind of know some stuff, but you're like, okay, there are just some things that I didn't realize, I didn't know to consider, the ways to, stay out of the bed or move the body or positions and all of those things. And I feel like we talked about a lot about positions because, when I talked to you about like what you were feeling, we thought maybe there might have been a position issue, with baby. And how did that labor go?
So that labor, I went into labor, I think it was a Friday night, and I was trying to labor at home as long as I could. And I really, looking back after I was more prepared for baby 3, I didn't realize how unprepared I was for the second one to do a natural delivery. I think there's just so much about mindset and your attitude. And there's so many ways you can set it up for success that I just didn't realize or didn't do. So going into that second labor, I wasn't well prepared. I thought I was adequately prepared, but no. And we had some stressors that day. So the oldest one was sick. He had a fever. He did not want to go to sleep. My contractions were picking up. I was in a lot of pain. That was the summer. So Drew was working cows. So he had been awake for many hours. He'd gotten up at like 4 that morning and was not in the best.
I wasn't in the most supportive mindset, maybe.
Yeah. The hospital bags were not packed. So it was like very stressful. And like the stress and then the pain of the contractions was very overwhelming. So we ended up going to the hospital around midnight. And when we got there, they told me that I was 5 centimeters. And hearing that number was so discouraging because I had been in what I felt like so much pain for several hours that I was like, I don't see how I can, that's back when I thought the amount of time to get to 5 would equal the amount of time to get to 10. And I was like, I cannot repeat this. Like, that is just not doable. And so as soon as they told me 5, I remember I looked at Drew and I was like, I'm going to have to get an epidural. Like, I can't keep going like this. And it was like very upsetting, very discouraging, but I did get the epidural and they did start Pitocin after I was blocked. And then after that, it was smooth. I mean, my labors have all been pretty quick. So he was born like several hours after that. And it was just easy delivery.
So looking back, and you did reach out to me, and you're like, I know I need a little bit of something, but when somebody reaches out to me and says, I let's just get on a phone call. I mean, I can't just sound like an infomercial all the time and say, no, you need an actual childbirth education class, you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't make you realize what you need to know. And a lot of people just have to go through the motions of, that's why people say that you really need childbirth education or to prep a little bit more because it's really a lot of the mind, it's not just comfort measures, right? It's not just Drew pushing on your back when you're like, hey, you got to get back here and press on my back.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people that I talk to that I tiptoe around that childbirth preparation conversation because of what you just said. Yeah. And as humans in society, I think that sometimes we just have to go through things and then realize that, I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. And people don't realize what actual childbirth education means either. It's not just a one day, it's not a one day. Here's how to breathe. Here's how to, do comfort measures. Here's how to position change and those kind of things. Looking back between 1 and 2, what do you wish you had known in 2 that you didn't know in 1?
I feel like I think I just had this like false confidence that like I'm a woman, so I'm made to deliver children. I thought I had like a decent pain tolerance, which now I think the phrase pain tolerance is dumb, but like I thought, I'm tough. I heard of people who had just like winged it before with not a lot of background education and had done it. So I think I just thought like, why couldn't I do it? But I really think that trying to have a natural delivery without that education behind you and having success, I think is maybe rare. I don't know. I think we underestimate how important it is. And it's kind of like how breastfeeding has been too. Like you think it's just, you're going to push out a baby or I'm just going to put a baby to the breast and it's going to work. It's really not like that. There's so many aspects to it. And that preparation, that knowledge really is so helpful when you get to the actual situation and knowing how you're going to handle something.
And I don't think couples realize either that it's more than just labor and having a baby. It's stressors of life. You had a husband that wasn't necessarily rested. You had, a kid that was sick and your brain was on that child. I think that environmentally, when we have stressors like that, it just kind of slams us in the face too. And if we're not prepared for the labor and then we have life on top of that, there is just no getting around the riding the waves because it's not about getting an epidural or pain-free or anything like that. It's more what is in my life, what is in my brain, so that this is so much heavier and I just don't need it to be so heavy. I can't carry all of this by myself. Okay. I need an epidural, or I need the heaviness to go away. I need some help with this.
Mhm.
And so when people are more prepared, then it takes away that heaviness. So let's talk about our relationship going into number 3, the most eventful, I think, birth that I have really ever experienced with someone. Thank you for that, by the way, for inviting me to this the craziness. So you reached out this time, and really when I'm coming and going in people's lives, it's when they're having a baby. It's like, hey, I'm pregnant again. I got a positive pregnancy test, and I'll say, okay, you're reaching out. So what are we doing this time? And so what were your thoughts when you contacted me for the third prep, or the third pregnancy?
I definitely knew that I needed to take it up a notch. And I didn't know if that was going to be support from, I wanted to do the classes with you. And then for the actual delivery, I didn't know if support from afar was going to cut it, or if I was going to need you there. But I knew that I was going to need something, that I didn't want it to 100% fall on Drew, that I wanted it to be more of a team situation where we were well prepared.
And the humorous part of this, Drew already thought that we could go out into the corner of the field and be fine. So that's not needed to happen.
That's
right. So, yes, I do classes, and usually what happens is I'll kind of interview a couple and say, okay, let's see what the need is. And if you need classes, great, let's start from there. And then if you need to add on, we'll add on to later. I don't like to go to like, hey, if somebody doesn't really think that I need to be present in their birth, we don't start there and then, I'm not needed. So we started our class sessions, which, is a few sessions, and I got to know y'all really well. I feel like really well. Thank you again for allowing me to do that. And in preparing for that birth, you said over and over, I need to step this up. I know that I know some things. And again, I feel like labor and delivery nurses, midwives, and OBs are the ones that are really like, oh, I got this. I do this all the time. Like, I see this all the time. I feel like I've got this. And they're the ones that come back to me later and be like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But we have to get, you talked about getting into the mind. Like, this is the majority of the mindset. And that's why we start those classes from there. So between the first and the second mindsets, going into the third, what beliefs did your belief system change from like the first, hey, I'm just going in and I'm getting an epidural, and we knew that you didn't want to get an epidural with the second, and you did. So what was your like belief system mindset for the third going in?
Well, I was still lacking some confidence, but I was thinking if I could do it, if I could have a delivery naturally without an epidural, then I was thinking like nobody needs to mess with me.
So confidence about what though? What were you lacking confidence in?
I just thought that I would cave again and say I needed the epidural.
So caving meaning, hey, I just can't do this again, kind of like the second one. I couldn't do this. And I think we did talk a lot about like what that meant, like, because I don't want moms to go into labor and think that if they need an epidural, like laboring can turn to suffering. So if they needed an epidural, then there's some things that I think that we talked about educationally on, okay, these are the ways that we can reduce the chance of an epidural, meaning mindset, going in with I can do this. I understand this. I think we said staying home as long as possible might have been a thing.
Right.
getting Drew comfortable with what you needed, also getting Drew well rested to be able to, and you were due in April. So I'm not really sure if that even changed things for you, Drew. Did it change very much as far as your schedule?
Not really. Pretty much every season's busy. I just have a different excuse depending on the month.
You were well rested that day.
Right.
Well, yeah.
I didn't get up. I didn't leave the house.
So, but you didn't what?
I didn't have to get up at 4 that day. I do know that.
Yeah. But I think we did sit down and think, Lauren, what did you need from Drew a little bit more? Because we do have to go through these experiences to even know our partners are not psychic. They don't know, like they don't automatically know what we're trying to tell them in our heads. So I think we did a little bit of work with that, and just being honest with, hey, these are the things that I need from you. But as far as like going in, we did build a little bit more confidence in how you felt about yourself, how you felt about, just the commitment level, but actually, talking more about what labor was and the processes of labor, and that numbers don't matter. Because with your second, you said I got there and I was 5 centimeters, but it really does matter that the first part of labor from 0 to 6 centimeters, the textbook of active labor, does take, especially for first time, maybe even some second time moms, a while, between 12 and 24 hours. So it does mess with your head when you go in and they're saying you're 4 or 5, even 3, 4 or 5 centimeters. And you're like, yeah, there's no way that I can do this for another 12 hours or so. So education wise, was it helpful to know that numbers really don't matter as much as where your baby is in your pelvis?
Oh yeah. Yes. And I mean, when I was at home, in early labor with the third, I feel like I was already just not even thinking about that, just realizing that it matters what I'm feeling in my body. The number is irrelevant in a lot of ways.
What other prep stuff do you feel like was important going in with your third?
I mean, I feel like you helped us navigate a lot of different ways that we were trying to set up for success. Like we talked about a lot of communication between Drew and I, and that involved even rehashing some of birth number 2. Like, how can we do this better next time? How can we be more prepared and understanding one another? Being really prepared as far as childcare and having a plan with that. And then of course, just everything you work us through with the daily stretching and the exercises and all of those things. So, I feel like it was a lot of different important steps to feeling prepared.
I don't think that people realize that the body balancing part is more, even sometimes more important than the actual childbirth education stuff, because with each baby that you have, your body changes. So did you feel that with each baby that you had, your body was just changing?
Yeah. It definitely felt like things were more advanced each time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Things were trying to fall apart more each time.
falling apart more. Yeah. So we did talk about, staying on top of whatever exercises we're applying to you, because exercises don't apply the same to everyone. And, so that's why I do the individual things that I do. So let's talk about your crazy, unexpected birth of your third, because it was not like your other 2, and you weren't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. I don't think Drew was the only one that was I think holding it together, because he's it's fine, it's gonna be fine. But because for me, it was a day, because we had decided that y'all were just going to do the classes and we were just going to do some texting support. I wasn't going to be present at your birth. So actually, I was actually nannying that day, and I was holding holding a 4-month-old, and putting him to sleep when, I got the, I think it was a text from Drew first. But Lauren, tell us when you got up that morning, what happened? Like, to start at the beginning of that birth process.
So it was a Tuesday morning, and I guess before the morning, before I get there, I was in a really good place, like mentally. Our oldest had actually had surgery the week prior, and so that was like a huge relief that was done. A lot of success with that, and then I had worked my last day of work the day before. So I was just feeling like ready and excited, positive, and I had no signs of like pre-labor or contractions or anything like that. So I woke up Tuesday morning around 3 and I was cramping. I didn't know, of course, if it was going to turn into contractions or what it was. And you and I had talked about not getting engaged too early on and just kind of going about your business. And so that's what I did. It was enough to where I couldn't really keep sleeping. I guess I was kind of anxious and excited to see what would happen. So I did get up and shower, do some laundry, start packing. And I was just kind of busying myself and being distracted. And Drew woke up around like 5:30. And I think he could see that I was just kind of like busy around the room and getting stuff together. And he was like, I remember he woke up and what did you say? You asked me.
I think I was like, are you going to have a baby today?
I was like, maybe. Like, I don't think I was like, yes. I think I was like, do you remember?
No, not specifically, but I don't think you would have said like, yes, because, then I said, well, like, are you about to have one right now? And she said no. So she sent me, or I said, well, can I go down to the farm office and get everybody started up for the day and then come back? And she said, yeah, that'd be fine. So I headed that way around 6:30 and I think, and texted all the guys that if they were up, then to just come on in and we would get all our instructions early and our plans early. And then I was supposed to cut back. I was supposed to leave the office by 7:30.
So he was like, I think we were preparing thinking that it was probably the day. I was probably like 70% sure he was going to be born that day.
I think I do remember you texting me and saying, I'm up and I've been having some contractions and I'm getting the boys where they need to be, I think is what you told me.
Yeah. And I think I had like some spotting that I hadn't seen before. And and I thought that was interesting. And I think I had told you that I was like kind of crampy, but it just seemed like very non-committal, like very chill still, like we'll see what happens. I was not getting like too worked up about it. I was casually timing them just because I'm like a numbers person. So, just curious, I guess. But it was just pretty chill at first. And then I did start getting the boys ready to get them over to the grandparents' house. So we were getting their bags together and just taking care of them, doing their morning routine, breakfast, brushing their teeth and all that.
And I'll say, I remember when some of the guys came in and we were talking and I told them what the plan was and that I was about to leave. I thought Lauren was going to have a baby. And somebody said, why are you here? And I remember this is like my famous last words, but I had my feet on my desk and I leaned back and I said, oh, by the time they're on their third calf, they really have it figured out. They don't need much help. And yeah. So it was maybe more foretelling than I knew at the time.
I mean, maybe. So Lauren, were you having like prenatal cervical exams or anything like that? Did you know where you were or anything prior to this day, like cervical stats or whatever?
So I think I was like 39 and 2. So, routinely the checks usually start around, 36 weeks. And I was fine with that. So yeah, I think I had 3 then probably. I honestly don't remember what they were. Maybe like 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't really taking it to mean much to me, I'm like, okay,
right.
Whatever.
Right. Yeah. I don't really remember either. I was just wondering if there were, or if we had, because I know I kept saying numbers don't matter
Yeah.
because It was more, I wanted to connect you to knowing what was in your head with your second baby. I wanted to connect you more about like your baby being in your pelvis and what was that feeling and those things. Okay. So start where we left off. So you got the boys to where the boys needed to be. Drew, did you end up going home after that, or Lauren, did you make him come home?
Yeah. So he had like hit his, I had told him like an hour and a half max. So we were like reaching that to where it was time for him to come home. And by that time the contractions were picking up. So I do remember I had hit a point where I was having to pause while taking care of the boys. And, I think I was leaning over the birth ball, and I remember the boys are kind of like looking at me like, what is mom doing? And I texted Drew and I said, things are picking up. Can you come on home? Something like that. Now, this was probably like an hour to 45 minutes before.
Yeah, because I think it was like 7:30 when I was supposed to be back.
Yeah, but you weren't quite back then.
Well, so I was supposed to come back, get the boys, take them to my parents' house, and then come home again.
Yeah.
And
then he realized there wasn't time for all those trips, because I was like saying things were getting pretty, I was starting to hurt.
So I worked with my dad, and I just told him to ride with me and brought him home. We put the boys in the truck, which probably took a while, probably 30 minutes or so to get them all put in, and then just sent him away with them in my truck. And so I guess that's probably
when all that was said and done,
so.
yeah, 8:15 or ish, or 8:30. So then we were just going to get prepared to start doing laboring at home. So I got the birth ball out, put it in the middle of the living room, turned on my playlist that I had made, and was just getting like ready to go. Not ready to go to the hospital, ready to just start working through some of the labor at home. I mean, I'm still in my mind thinking like this baby will be born like this afternoon or something like that. So I think
because her water still hasn't even broken yet. And in both other instances, it broke before we went to the hospital.
Maybe just with the first one. But yeah, I mean, it just took
a while.
Well, we just thought we had time, like there would be maybe a couple hours of active labor at home.
Well, I was going to say the next text that I think I got was Drew saying, hey, Lauren is, laboring. Tell me what I'm looking for. Because we had talked a lot about the emotional changes of, early labor being you still being able to communicate, into active labor, you're not able to communicate much anymore. Then we talked about physically, usually people start like sitting, in early labor, and then they gravitate to, standing and moving around and swaying to back down over the ball sometimes. So it's kind of up, down, up, down. And he said, what am I looking for? And he sent me a video, I think. Drew, right? I think that you sent a video, and I said, oh, she looks very, in labor. She looks like, it looks like she's, heading into active, if not already there. So do you remember after that, Drew, because I felt like it was whatever was happening was very quick.
Well, because the video he sent you, that was the very first contraction that was 1 minute and 30 seconds. Every contraction before that had been 45 seconds, because I was definitely timing them by that. So they went from 45 seconds to bam, there was 1 minute and 30. And I just remember being in like disbelief. I'm like, what? Like, this is not supposed to happen.
And I think that like I was texting you because she had kind of like checked out as far as communication was going. Like she was doing her thing, but I couldn't really talk to her, or, I didn't feel like she could even tell me with any certainty if we needed to go or not in that particular moment.
Right.
I remember you had suggested maybe like an hour prior, I had told you it was getting a little more painful, and you're like, well, why don't you try to get like in the shower, in the tub? And I texted you, and I'm like, I'm just burning up. Like, that just doesn't sound good. And then later you were like, that was a little bit, I wondered about that. Like, because I feel like most labor women, the tub sounds good, but maybe I was like at the next level at that point. I don't know. I was just like so hot.
That sounds transition-y with that hot cold thing. Yeah. And if you're, not being able to answer questions, if you're way in kind of labor land or what I call zombie mode, and he's not being able to get like a logical thinking out of you. Yeah. And I think my next text was, there's no wrong answers here. I can't tell you when to go, but I don't think I would hang around, with the emotional characteristics, the way that it was, with the timing, the way that the contractions were getting really, really long, and with you laboring the way that you were. And I think even in that video, you were vocalizing pretty loud too. Like you were moaning the moans that gradually help you have a baby.
Yeah.
So after those kind of texts and y'all or Drew, you kind of making the decision to go ahead and herd, no pun intended, to the car to tell us the events that were happening.
Well, I mean, I guess she was still hot and she was still unreasonable and she did not want to be dressed. And
I had gone to the back. I had gone to the restroom because I wanted to empty my bladder, but then wouldn't put my pants back on.
And I was like, "We have to go, and you have to wear clothes." And it was a pretty big battle, to be honest. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like dressing a toddler, and and
that's pretty much a telling sign that baby is gonna come sooner than later when people do not want to put their clothes back on. Yeah,
that's so not me. Not wanting to put my pants on. Yeah,
right.
Things were serious.
So, like with great effort, we got to the doorway, and I think she had a contraction in the doorway and just kind of like froze up, and
well, my water broke in our room. I was trying to get from the bathroom to the front door to get to the car. I remember thinking, like, in my mind, that just sounded like so impossible, getting in the car and going to the hospital. That just didn't sound doable, but I was trying to go through the motions.
Well, the water broke was closer to the door because I had to go back and get towels. So we were like right behind us, and Lauren's water breaks and we're just steps from the door. And, so I kind of had to leave her locked up in a oncoming contraction, and I run back to the bathroom, which is not 10 steps, and get a couple of towels and come back.
The towels were for the car.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was going to put towels in the car and we were going to head to the hospital, but she was just posted up in the doorway. And I mean, I feel like I just rounded the corner.
And I think that's when you called me.
Yeah.
I think that's when you called me and you said, I think we need to go to the hospital, and she's not helping me out. I think is what you said, I'm trying to get her to the car.
I called you. I had a horrible contraction in my bedroom on the way to the front door. And I remember laying on the floor screaming, and I think you were on the phone at that point and you could hear me screaming. And I think you were like, okay, yeah, I support your decision to go.
Yeah. I'm like, y'all can go. And then, so you were stood at the doorway
and had the front door was open. The screen door was closed, but Lauren's kind of leaned up in the door frame. But when I came back with the towels, I knew that she was about to have a baby, and I don't remember if there was already a head coming out, but I just remember I came around the corner with the towels and I just like didn't pause or stop or anything. I just slid them underneath her and got on my knees and pretty much and went to work basically.
Yeah. It was, I had this realization that, or I guess not a realization. I guess the urge to push was coming on, and it was just so, I was in so much pain. I was like, well, I'm just going to push and see what happens. But the weird thing was I was trying to be really in tune with what it felt like on my pelvis. And remember we had talked about like that bowling ball feeling and feeling him descending, but I really am not sure why. I never really had that. I never really felt that bowling ball feeling or really that pressure. Really, all I could focus on was the contraction pain, like in the bottom of my stomach. But I did feel like if I pushed, maybe I would have relief. And so I decided to try it. I put my hand against the door frame for support, and I think that's when Drew was like rounding the corner, and I just like gave it all I had, and his head was coming out.
So yeah, I think that like the head was coming out, and threw the towels under and got on my knees, and Lauren is going, "Get him out, get him out."
His head was delivered, and then my contraction was over, and that was a little bit scary to me, just his head hanging out. And so yeah, I was like, "Get him out, get him out." And Drew was like, you're gonna have to like let your body have another contraction, which I mean, I see that in the hospital. You just have to wait sometimes, and usually and hopefully baby's going to be okay for a minute. So when the next contraction came, I pushed and he came out. When he was born, it was really surreal just seeing a newborn in our house like that, like a brand newborn, and him not having a lot of good color, not crying at first. That was just weird, a little scary at first, but like Drew rubbed his back and kind of got him to come to a little bit, and he did. And then he started to cry. He started to pink up. I rolled over on my back, and Drew put him on my chest and put towels on us. And Drew was like running all over the place, getting like towels and a pillow. And I was content on the floor. I didn't care. But he was just trying to get us as comfortable as we could be, I think.
And the door's still open.
Yeah, they're like tracking.
Yeah, so yeah, some of the guys from work drove by in a tractor, and I was kneeled on the floor with Lauren and a new baby, and I was like, if only they knew, And
the wonderful part of this story for me, I was just so elated for y'all to begin with, because, of course, and it's easy for me on this side of the phone when, Drew said, okay, I'm going to try to get her in the car and I'll call you back. And then the next phone call that I get is, hey, baby's here. and I hear you, Lauren, say, hey, I just had a baby in my living room. But also, kind of coming full circle in the lack of confidence to even go into having a third baby, and then actually having a baby accidentally in your doorway. I can't even wrap my head around how y'all must feel about that very moment. Like, can you even give me one word that encompasses that feeling?
I mean, we were just so proud and excited, and it was really just such a special day. It was such a different experience, between the two of us too, from the second delivery to the third. And I mean, the whole time I'm getting prepared with you. Drew was always a part of the classes, a part of the prep, the stretching, everything. So there was a lot of teamwork this time. And then it just ended with a bang. It was just the two of us here. And so it was wild, but awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And scary, I'm sure, when you have experiences, and Drew's experience came into play with this, because he's you're like, okay, get him out. So, and it's just overwhelming, and you got to wrap your head around, okay, I'm having a baby, first of all. And second, the timing of, head is out. Now we just need to wait is a very overwhelming process for that. But also not necessarily always that happens in the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of okay, the head's out. Okay, give us a big push and let's have another baby. I think it's I don't want to say rare, but it's not very often sometimes that there is a pause and everybody's just kind of okay, let's wait for the next contraction, especially if you're not being monitored and all of these things, right? If you're just having a baby, you're just having having. Like, it's just time to have a baby. And I think it's amazing that instinct kicked in for both of you. And Drew's like, look, you're just going to have to wait for a contraction. Hold on just a second. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this together. And then he sent me a picture of you holding your baby when you're on the floor, and he had gotten you comfortable. So tell me a little bit what happened after that. Do y'all remember? I kind of remember, but I don't remember very much after that.
So he had kind of worked on cleaning us up, and I'll add to, with my nursing background, I kind of knew when he was born, a few things were going through my mind. I mean, I had known that I was GBS positive, so would have received the antibiotics in the hospital and wanted to receive the antibiotics in the hospital. He also had meconium, and I think that when you have meconium, I think NICU usually attends your delivery. So some of those things were kind of going through my brain after he was born. And that was just kind of just so surreal to be in our home where we didn't have access to all of those things, but you know, somehow he was latched and he was nursing and he seemed healthy. So I was really overcome with thankfulness at how healthy he was, and how well he was doing. But after we got situated, Drew called the paramedics, and I think about 30 minutes later, they got there, loaded us up, and baby was still nursing. He was still latched. That was going well. No, I was in a little bit of discomfort because my placenta had not yet delivered. So that it felt like the contractions had kind of started to come back a little bit, but otherwise everything went very smoothly. I didn't have like a lot of blood loss. We loaded up in the ambulance and Drew cut the cord.
I do remember that. I do remember being on the phone with Drew, and I was like, don't let him cut the cord. You do that if you want to do that. I do remember that.
And he did. Yes.
Yeah. So when you got to the hospital, tell me everything that kind of went on there. Did you end up doing, or did baby get antibiotics? What happened with that?
I don't think he did. I think that the protocol was to monitor him for 48 hours and look for signs of like fever or anything like that. But I don't think that he got anything. But once we got to labor and delivery, a whole crew, rushed us to a room. And I remember the charge nurse was like, "You look so pale." like if you didn't deliver here, something must be wrong. And, it was just kind of strange reactions.
I think that they were all surprised too, because he was born at home and he had been born for probably an hour before we got there, or maybe more than that. I think that, I don't know if everybody's just thinking about if a home birth, changes their mind that something must be wrong, or really, I don't really know where everybody's mind was at. But I would say that it was a very interesting reaction from the whole unit almost.
I mean, I think that things just were not according to plan. So that threw everybody off a lot.
Yeah, I think even when we transfer for home births, like if, their medical care needs to happen in the hospital and not outside of the hospital, even planned home births, everybody just kind of scrambles a little bit too. And I mean, there's a checklist, there's a protocol. And then when somebody comes in with the baby, it does kind of like put a wrench in what needs to happen, what just happened. Okay, where do we start with care? Those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But y'all and I both know that inside of the medical system, there's going to be bias. There's going to be not really, judgment, but okay, I'll say some judgment sometimes, but there's going to be this, bias a lot of times that if it happens outside, yeah, okay, now there's something wrong. There's got to be something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And this can't happen outside. It has to be managed inside the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember you saying that the nurse said that you were really pale and like, oh, something must be wrong, with you. Now, there could have been a lot of blood loss, but you already knew that you were okay and there wasn't that much blood loss. Being a nurse, you would have rolled in going, okay, somebody give me some blood or somebody do this. You would have been asking for certain things. So it's always intriguing to me when I go in with people occasionally too that are, they're like, oh, something must have been wrong with you and with baby for more management. And maybe it was just like, well, we weren't involved in this and we want to be involved a little bit more, So what did you need anything when you got there, or they just kind of monitored you?
They monitored me. They said that I needed some stitching. So the OB came and did that. Said it was like a first or second degree. Other than that, though, I didn't need anything. The nurses were kind of ticked that the paramedics didn't start an IV, but I was kind of glad because then I never got an IV the whole time. I mean, my vitals were good, heart rate, blood pressure, everything was good. There wasn't really any need for any of that. So I got stitched up and that was pretty much it.
And so did you stay the whole 48 hours?
We did. They did want us for his sake to stay 48 hours, but I don't think he had any interventions, anything special either. They let me keep him with me. He was with me the whole time.
I remember I don't remember if it was a person or like a report, but one of the reasons that we were given for having to stay 48 hours was that he was delivered with like substandard care. And I took that real personally. I was like, I thought it was pretty good.
What? What?
It is weird being in a hospital and all the different reactions you get from the nurses
because every time shift change, they read the chart and they all come in and talk about it.
Did you feel supported, Lauren, by the hospital staff?
There were some who were really supportive and happy for us. And, for me, from the patient perspective, I don't really care like what charting you need to get done or what you need to check off your list. Like what really matters is the human life in this situation and the fact that mother and baby are healthy and things went well. So there were some who just seemed more concerned with, the checklist and this God's planned and stuff. So there were some that were that way. And, we really just kind of tried to not let it bring us down. And then there were some who were really sweet and they were like, wow, that was amazing that y'all did that. Like, I'm so glad that he is okay. And so it was really just a mix.
Cause this wasn't planned. I mean, it wasn't your fault that, so it was kind of like, I don't know, attitude. It's kind of like, why was there an attitude? Because it wasn't something that you did on purpose. I can understand bias.
I mean, no one has said this, but my assumption is that they thought that maybe I did do it on purpose. Like maybe I was trying to have a home birth. But like who has a home birth and only plans for like their husband to be there? And there's like,
and does it in the doorway.
Yeah. Like, not in a bed, not in a tub. Like, I had nothing.
Right.
I think that if you
were going to do it on purpose, you would have been comfortable.
Yeah.
Like it was very clearly, for anyone who takes the time to listen to how it went down, it was very clearly, unplanned. So it's almost like maybe they thought I was
I'm not that doula either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's wild to me. Okay. So 2 questions. The first one is, if you have another baby, and I'm not like predicting this, okay? Because I think y'all said that you might be finished, and 4 is a good round number, but I'm not saying anything. So if you ended up doing this again, would you go to the hospital or would you like think about planning a home birth?
I honestly think that there is still that part of me that is glad and thankful for the day and age where we do have those things at the ready if needed. You know, if things were to go south, heaven forbid. I am thankful that we have some of those medical interventions. So I think in a perfect world, if there was a number 4, I would want it to be as quick as this one was, get to the hospital in time, and hopefully just wouldn't need anything, would have the baby there, and, you know, just wouldn't need anything, but there would be that backup if there was an emergency or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Drew, how about you? For number 4, would you, I mean, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to say whatever Lauren wants to do, but does this make you more comfortable with birth?
I'm more comfortable with the birth. I think that the birth is the easy part. You know, for me, what I didn't know about is, taking care of somebody after giving birth, or having to take care of a new human baby. So, you know,
or a woman just in labor for hours.
It's well, you know, I feel better having some backup, you know, with some people who are helping me, you know, whose job it is to take care of babies and new babies and moms postpartum and stuff like that.
But yeah, I mean, I would still, I think that just because I had more involved doula care for number 3, I still think that I would do that again, because you forget things. I mean, I think that played a big role.
Well, every baby's different. Every pregnancy is different. Every labor is different. So even if you did number 4, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be. And I'm not going to say it's easy, because those fast ones are really overwhelming. To have a baby in your doorway and try to get to the car, they're really overwhelming. So, you know, there's so many people that say, oh, well, I really want that one. And the grass is not always greener. We want uneventful, and we want healthy. And if that means that it's going to happen in the fast way, but it's just not guaranteed. Each birth is not always faster. And every time I say, hey, this is going to be a picnic, it's never that way. I quit predicting births a long time ago. The second question I was going to ask you is, I do have a lot of people that are really afraid to not get to the hospital in time, even in average labors, even in average early labors. They are really afraid that they're going to wait too long. Or, of course, I'm always and forever, dads are like, or partners are like, we can stay home as long as possible, but I do not want to have a baby on the way. So what would you tell those people? What would you to build their confidence in their ability to, you know, give birth or get caught in a real precipitous labor, because you didn't mean to have this baby in your living room. It just came faster, or it turned the corner faster than you thought. So what encouragement would you give to somebody that had that fear?
Well, I think that it's always good to talk about your previous history with deliveries, how fast they've been in the past. And like you kind of talked to us about just what to expect in labor, about how long each step may take. And we kind of had a plan, maybe an estimate of how long we'd be at the house, when we'd want to head to the hospital, since we live about an hour away. So we had kind of talked through it, and we had a loose plan in place. I kind of think that's really all you can do. And past that, honestly, if you are a believer, you just have to have faith and trust that God already knows if this baby's going to come at the house, at the hospital, in the car. It's just really not our call. So you really just, the planners in us, you know, we want to say, oh, we want to have the baby here. We want to have the baby here. But I guess I've learned, you know, you don't, sometimes it's just not up to us, and that's okay. We just have to be prepared for anything. And
I just follow Lauren's lead. So I don't really have a lot of advice at this point. I just have to take it at face value.
Good answer, Drew. Good answer. Well, I am super proud of both of y'all. I mean, I watched you go from, I don't really know what to expect. I know, you know, we need more and and then y'all working together. Because I do know that, the second one, and it's all about expectations too, and reasonable expectations and clear expectations and a lot of communication. A lot of couples go into it with, we juggle life together, but you don't necessarily juggle labor together every day. And sometimes that takes a lot of, a lot of coming together, a lot of honesty, a lot of, hey, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but this is what I need from you, to having a baby in your doorway and not meaning to, right? And then everybody kind of coming together, but you said it, like you're keeping your power in this process is knowing that you needed more and knowing that there's some vulnerability that has to come into this. But also, knowing that your power was in the Lord giving you that comfort and the ability to birth your baby, no matter where that was. Mm-hmm. And thank you for letting me be a part of that. That was a beautiful journey that you allowed me to witness. And again, I'm just super proud of both of you.
Thank you for all of your help and support. And I'm so glad that we involved you this time.
Well, and you sure you're not going to do this again?
So this third one, I think that the delivery was kind of a prediction of his personality, because he's giving us a run for our money. But we'll see. We haven't said that the door is totally closed.
Well, I thank you for sharing your story and sitting down with me tonight. And, again, congratulations. So tell me this title of what you won.
So we are the outstanding young farm family for Alabama for this 2025 year. And we will get to go.
Yes, you are.
We're going to go to California this winter, and we'll compete against some other states and see how we do there too.
That is awesome. And like I said, I don't think that.
But I think that Rhett's delivery and everything is just like real fitting with our lifestyle, or my lifestyle, and the way that I've always lived. And I think that, living on a farm, I've always seen my parents and grandparents just pray that God blesses our efforts. But as far as what we're given, we just have to play with the hand that we're dealt and trust that God's will be done. And I think that this is just one of those things too, like that God blessed my efforts and his will was done. And I'd say that was about all I can say about that.
Yeah, I'm just very thankful for y'all, and thank you for sharing your story and spending time with me. And I know our listeners are going to be so blessed by this. Not only, I mean, just in the family sense and and just so much blessings, but birth is scary. And birth is scary in the controlled atmospheres of birth. But then when it's a surprising birth part that literally you grew through, is, God gives us things that we need to experience to grow us, to show other people the hope of growth and what we can get from it. And I'm just very thankful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we will talk at you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to the Keeping Your Power podcast. I hope this episode reminded you that your feelings are valid and your voice truly matters. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs the encouragement and know that they are seen. You can connect me at Tracidoula.com or on any social media platform at Tracidoula. On the next episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings about being an adoptee and the details about my adoption story. I hope you join me. Until next time, keep your power in the process.